Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special request. This is going to be a vintage review of an older movie that came out quite a bit ago, but nonetheless is still a classic. Let's talk about Tropic Thunder. So Tropic Thunder came out in 2008. It was directed by Ben Stiller, and it starred Ben Stiller, Jack Black, Robert Downey Jr., Jay Baruchel, Brandon T. Jackson, Nick Nolte, Matthew McConaughey, Tom Cruise, Danny McBride, Bill Hader, and Steve Coogan. That's a lot of names. This movie had a lot of people in it, and it has a great cast. Everybody in this movie just works out really well. There is a great chemistry between all these actors. And I think everybody was just standing on their own and just really shining in this movie. It's a very funny movie, and it's very much a product of its time. Some of the jokes that are in this movie probably would not be as accepted as they were back then. I think that's a shame because I do think, we have lost a bit of our humor and our stomach for humor since the Me Too movement. But yeah, let's talk about this movie and why I think it's worth rewatching. So this movie is about a movie that's being made that's based on a book written by Nick Nolte's character, who is a war veteran, and this was his story, and they are trying to make this movie. And throughout the filming of this movie, they encounter a lot of issues. Some of the chemistry is just not working out. Ben Stiller and Robert Downey Jr. are just having a really hard time getting into their characters. Actually, mostly Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller, there's a scene in the beginning, he's just having a hard time crying, and he's just not bringing out the performance that he needs. And the budget is starting to run very heavy, and this is very annoying to Les Grossman, played by Tom Cruise, in what is still considered a classic, hilarious cameo. And anyway, this performance is causing problems. So in order to get the best performance out of these actors, Nick Nolte comes up with the brilliant idea of bringing these actors into an active war zone. Like, I don't know if he knew it was going to be an active war zone, but he intended to have these actors brought into the real shit so that they would experience the real emotions that is necessary to properly convey how a soldier would be feeling in this battle. That is a very silly concept. It's ridiculous. But that concept is hilarious, and it's a great catalyst for what drives this whole movie. Everything revolves around that plot, and I think it was an excellent story point, albeit quite insane. Now, in 2008, Robert Downey Jr. was just landing the success from being Iron Man. Everybody was so excited. The MCU was officially born, and he was on top of his game. And he plays in this movie a character who's Australian with blonde hair and blue eyes, but he is a serious method actor, and he takes his part so serious that he actually gets a surgical procedure done to make himself black so that he can play this black character. Why they didn't hire an actual black character to play this character in the movie, well, I don't know, but that is hilarious, and I think it worked out really well. Robert Downey Jr. did a very good job in this movie playing this character. Blackface is considered a sensitive subject, but I think that the way this movie handled it is kind of poking fun of the fact that this guy did this. They weren't saying, yeah, you should do blackface. They were making fun of it very much throughout the movie. This guy was getting so lost in his character that he was forgetting that he was not a black guy. And by the way, he was playing the black guy to like this ridiculous stereotype. That was also brought up as a joke. So it was clearly, they were making fun of the way blackface was portrayed. And so for that matter, I think it was used effectively and it was funny. I liked it a lot. Robert Downey Jr. was super memorable in this movie. He was just very funny. Ben Stiller playing basically the epitome of every failed 80s action star, somebody who was at the top of their game, had all kinds of awesome movies coming out, but then their career took a nosedive, like certain, Dolph Lundgren. Those 80s stars are starting to come back now because of the Expendables and things like that, but this is basically who Ben Stiller is. He's that failed 80s action star that's trying to regain his relevance. He's coming off of a bad movie where he played a man with special needs. I'm not going to say the R word, but they use that word a lot in this movie. And again, we can't say that anymore. But this movie was made before we became so taboo to that word. So you got to give it a pass because back then we thought it was funny and socially acceptable. I thought Nick Nolte's character was very funny in this movie. And part of the reason is because this guy has such a gruff demeanor. He's got the raspiest voice I feel like I've ever heard in my life. He sounds like a no-nonsense guy. He was in that movie, He's got a war movie he was super famous for, Thin Red Line, okay? He was in the Thin Red Line, and he did a very good job in that movie. He played this brutal captain. He's a war guy, and he has this presence to him. Seeing him in this movie, playing in this comedy role with this gruff voice he has, it was just hilarious to me. It doesn't fit. It doesn't seem like he's the kind of actor that would do this kind of a movie, and yet he knocked it out of the park. He was a natural for this. And the spoiler time has way past, it came out in 2008. So I'm going to just say this guy actually is not even a vet. He's never even set foot into battle. In fact, he reveals he's never even left the country. And yet he had the brilliant idea of bringing these men into the middle of the jungle, into the middle of danger. It was just really hilarious. He's a hypocrite. When Danny McBride first finds out, he is like, oh my God, that's like punching the American flag in the face. And you're damn right it was, but that was so funny. No, isn't it weird that this movie is now considered a classic? Hollywood has done a lot of time has passed by, and this movie came out so long ago that it is kind of vintage now. This is a classic vintage movie. And I remember this summer very well because The Dark Knight came out. We had, Iron Man, and we had Pineapple Express, which I actually will be honest, I thought Pineapple Express was a little funnier than this movie just because I enjoyed the stoner aspect of that movie, and James Franco and Seth Rogen's chemistry was very funny. Danny McBride's actually in that movie as well, also funny in that performance. But yeah, this movie, it is a classic. This is a classic movie now. The movie begins with a few fake trailers that are kind of supposed to let you know who these people are that are playing in this movie. You get Jack Black, and you can tell he's basically playing a version of the Nutty Professor, Eddie Murphy's character. And he is, he's doing the farts. He's got the fat suit. He's just known for farting, and that's what he's known for. And then you get to see Robert Downey Jr.'s character. And there's a commercial for his movie that was just really funny. Also a product of its time. Tobey Maguire was super popular. Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 1, he was known as Spider-Man. And so I gotta say, I am still eager to see this movie, Satan's Alley, because, something about the chemistry between Robert Downey Jr. and Tobey Maguire wearing the dress robes, reaching for those rosary beads, something just made me excited. I think that movie looks really funny. Why haven't we made that yet? It would be hilarious. Let's get on that. And, why haven't we made Booty Sweat? I would definitely drink some Booty Sweat. I love a good energy drink. I drink a lot of Red Bull. I drink a lot of Monster. Give me some Booty Sweat. I'll open that can up. Proud. Speaking of Booty Sweat, it's Brandon T. Jackson's character that is sponsoring this product. He's a rapper, and he has this, this brand that he's trying to sell. He's trying to get popular, so he's plugging it into the middle of every conversation he can. He literally breaks it out in the middle of the conflict while they're being shot at. He's like, let me open this can of Booty Sweat. And he was pretty funny in this movie. But I was looking at his IMDb page, and it got me thinking, how did this guy get into this movie? Because this movie has a stacked cast of already very established actors, and his resume at that point wasn't very big. He had a lot of small things. So how did he get in this movie? And where has he been since? I feel like I haven't seen very much of this guy. Put something in the comments. How did this guy get into this movie with all these A-list actors? Not saying he was bad. I'm just saying he felt a little out of place in terms of popularity. So this movie is silly. It's over the top. It has stuff that would be considered offensive in today's standards. That's a shame because, like I said, I think that we have lost some of our stomach. Humor, at the end of the day, is just designed to make us laugh. It's not designed to offend people, and this movie wasn't trying to offend anyone. Robert Downey Jr.'s character with the blackface, he wasn't trying to offend black people. Hell, I am half black, and I couldn't give a shit. I thought it was hilarious. I think that there's a lot in this movie that works out really well. Is it the greatest comedy of all time or just the best comedy? No, it's not. There is better comedies out there. As I mentioned, I think I liked Pineapple Express a bit more, but it has been many years since I saw that one as well. And so maybe I'll have to give that a check. So bottom line, I think that this movie is not a 7. A 7 is too low. Okay, a 7 is like nearing failure. I don't think this movie is like bordering on failure, but I also don't think it is the best comedy of all time. So I think 8 is too high. I'm going to go with a 7.5 on this movie. I definitely think it's worth a watch. It is very funny. Comedies are not my first genre of movie, but I still really enjoyed this movie, and it was just really awesome getting that throwback and seeing what it was like in 2008 and weeping for what we've lost in the world of comedy, and hoping that we can eventually stop being so sensitive to some of these things and just bring back the over-the-top, vulgar, offend everybody kind of comedy, because that was when comedy was the funniest, and we got to get that back because we need it. We need to laugh in this country. So what are you guys' thoughts? Have you seen this movie? If you haven't, that's insane. This movie has been out for a while. What are you waiting on? As always, if you like this video, go ahead and like this video. It's a great way to let me know that I'm doing a good job. And if you want to see more things like this, or if you have any special requests, because I'll be honest, this review was a special request from my neighbor. He told me he wanted me to review this movie, and then he would subscribe to my channel. I was like, hey, what do I got to lose? If you guys have any special requests, don't be shy. Put that in the comments. I will watch the movie if I have the ability to. And that's all I have to say. Later.